Good evening and welcome to Confessions. I'm your hostess of light, Jennifer Watson. I'm an empowerment and life transition coach, and my mission is to provide a safe space for people to step into their darkness to shine their brightest of lights. And that's what the show is all about. Tonight we'll be talking about body shaming and how it destroys us. It wreaks havoc on our self-confidence, our worthiness, and even our ability to love. It comes in many forms, from weight to physical attributes, and it's time to stop the shaming and start the embracing. Joining me to talk about this important tonight is an amazing panel of guests. Please join me in welcoming Kate Feathers, clairvoyant, Jakeb Arturio Braden, executive producer of LGBTV, and Sophia Del Gigante of NY Foodgasm. So thank you for coming on this evening and talking to me tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You know, you each have your own experiences and perspectives on it, so I'm excited to talk to you guys. And are you ready to bare your soul?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Sure.
Let's get this on. So let's start at the heart of it and define what body shaming is. So, you know, we encounter discrimination of all forms in life. And more recently, as we enter the fear of obesity and unhealthy and everything, you know, people face a discrimination about how they look in their bodies, and we do it to others and we do it to ourselves. So Kate, why don't you start off with what you feel the definition of body shaming is for you?
Well, what is that? Just making myself feel bad for my body, for whatever is going on, whether it's I'm having chronic lower back pain or excess fat in places I don't want it, or you know, the shape of my eyes or head, or you know, just however I look in pictures, when I just, you know, point the finger at myself and continue to make myself feel really bad. That's what body shaming is to me.
Exactly. Sophia, how is it for you?
When I hear body shaming, I think of the ideas of others and their perceptions of what my body should be like, and projected onto me, or even society's ideas of what my body's supposed to look like, directed at me. And then also with that is my interpretation of how I should be, because of all those external factors. As women, we're constantly comparing ourselves to other women, constantly comparing our bodies. She has longer legs, she has this, she has that. And I think it's very unhealthy. And so I think of it as more an external thing, but obviously there's a huge internal component, because we are our greatest enemies a lot of the times, unless we listen to that voice in our head.
Exactly. I think well said. Jakeb, how about for you?
I agree with what the other two have said, and I'll add it's for me, it's how we beat ourselves up and how we give ourselves a negative vibe, or tell ourselves off for not having the body that we think we ought to have, or the body that is sexually appealing or appealing to other people, you know, whether that is, you know, for me, I'm a gay man, so it's a body that's appealing to other men. For straight men, it's the same thing. It's a body that's appealing to women, and you know, it's about that, and it's about judging other people as well on your own standards. Because if you're shaming yourself, you're probably going to be shaming other people as well. Because that's how it works, isn't it? You shame yourself, you shame others, you know. And it's about judging and treating people differently because they don't have what we see as the perfect body, which ironically is different for different people. So.
Exactly. You know, and I know for myself, you know, I've gone through a period of where I would see another woman and I would size her up based on her physical attributes, like, oh, is she thinner than me? You know, and then I'd shame myself. You know, I think the number one for women, correct me if I'm wrong, has to do with our weight. So, Sophia, you've built a business around, you know, hating the scale and starting to embrace life. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to get into NY Foodgasm to begin with?
Well, I had my struggles with my weight my entire life since I was a child. Like, I was an overweight kid, an overweight adult, and not until I got to the 30 years old then I made a change. I changed, like, how I eat. I changed But more, I changed how I think about myself and how I think to myself. So instead of being my worst enemy, I started being my own best friend. And that's when things kind of turned around for me. So I don't think of it as just weight loss. I think of it as loving yourself no matter what. Because if you want to lose weight, the weight will come off if you love yourself. If you want to lose weight. If you don't want to lose weight, then fine. Just stay the way you are and be happy with who you are. So that's where it started for me, was more about, it's more about being kind to yourself than it is about any number or anything. And part of being kind to yourself is, you know, caring about your body. And if you care about your body, you embrace your body, and you move your body, you will have respect for your body because you see what it's capable of.
Exactly. Kate, you've had a similar experience with embracing who you are.
Yeah, I grew up overweight as a child, as a teenager, and the same thing. I was in my early 20s where I learned to do some meditations or affirmations about loving myself, and so I did those often, and then found Weight Watchers and dropped a bunch of weight, and then it crept back on toward my later 20s and early 30s, though I maintained that self-love mostly, but then would dip into self-hatred again. And for me, it was not just as simple as going back on Weight Watchers again as I got older, because a lot of things that turned up through, I found the perfect doctor, a functional medical practitioner who was also a chiropractor, and someone I needed to find because she pointed out to me through lab tests and through her own, what is it called, muscle testing and body talk, which is basically a psychic doctor, found out that I had all these hormonal problems. So while I was doing Insanity, those workouts and all the beach body stuff, sweating, jumping around 45 minutes to an hour, and going on diets, I would just continue to gain weight. So while I would talk to people about that and feel like some people were like, oh, you're just lazy or you're lying to yourself, you know, being the clairvoyant, clairaudient, you can kind of hear what people are thinking. That wasn't true. And then that in turn, I would just say to myself, well, maybe I am lying to myself, you know, and it wasn't until I moved out to Idaho last year or 2 years ago that I met a doctor who was able to tell me what I needed to do to lose weight, and not just lose weight, but feel better. I mean, her first thing was, Kate, just love and accept yourself the way you are. And I was like, I do, but I don't want to be big. You know, I don't want to be over 200 pounds on a 5 foot, you know, 4.5 frame. I've been smaller. I felt more comfortable doing that. And so I straightened out my thyroid. I just have done a lot of therapies and was able to take off a lot of weight, and still, you know, I can put on weight easily. Take off weight is hard, but I have the tools now, and when I do put on a little weight, I definitely love myself, because otherwise I will get trapped into a cycle that spins, and it raises stress in the body, and when you raise stress in the body, it will hold on to weight. So it's not just, you know, mentally and emotionally good for you to love yourself. It's, you know, physiologically beneficial. So that's my path.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, both of you ladies bring up a great point that it has nothing to do with what your size is. I think all these judgments come because, you know, we see the stigma on weight, but there are so many underlying issues. There are thyroid issues, there are hormonal issues, there are emotional issues. You don't know what somebody is going through right now. And to judge them on their physical appearance, you're not seeing who they are on the inside. And this is what we need to fight back against and realize that, A, if I love me for my size right now, then that's not your fucking problem. Mm-hmm. And so we need to get the word out there that you got to stop the body shaming, because you don't know what's going on in someone else's life or what their situation is. So I'd like to bring it back over to Jakeb. I know men probably experience this to a certain level. Is it weight, or is it more like the stigma to be sculpted in this perfect masterpiece that us women can
Men now are increasingly facing body image issues and stuff like that. young gay, I'll give you a little statistic I know from my previous work. Young gay men are 6 times more likely to take steroids than heterosexual young men. So there's a real pressure to have a perfect body, and even like guys my age in their 40s and 50s, there's pressure to be super fit and hot and stuff like that. And it's something I was aware of when I came out when I was 22. The pressures in the gay community to, especially for men, to be perfect, muscles, abs, whatever. Bizarrely enough, there's a section of the gay community that likes the bigger, fatter guys called bears, and there's a strange crossbreed called muscle bears, so they're guys with muscles but have a bit of a belly as well, But there's a lot of pressure, and I think even straight men now, there's a lot of young guys in my gym that work out, and I suspect some of them are on steroids as well, And I'll be honest, I've taken steroids in the past, for me, it's been an acceptable way of achieving that body or achieving that. And I've done it mindfully, and I've done it properly in regards to, I've got advice, and I've had blood tests and stuff like that to make sure that I'm okay and I'm healthy. But I think men are probably now almost as under equal pressure as women have been for God knows how long in order to be that kind of ultra fit, either muscles or, the other side is to be uber slim and thin, The current models now, male models are very slim and very thin, aren't they? Very petite, whereas 20 years ago they all had muscles and stuff like that. So I think it's hard for guys.
I think it's just so sad what we end up doing to ourselves just to feel like we can fit in, like between drugs and eating disorders and everything, what's out there, what we do because our minds think that we should be this. So we've spent a lot talking about weight, but there's other things that we tear apart as well. Like it could be, your hair, your eyes, your facial features, or it could just be a certain part of your body. So what other kinds of body shaming do we indulge in as a society?
Yeah, I mean, just blemishes on people's faces and liposuction and Botox and God knows what that people do inject into themselves and do things to themselves, to remain younger looking, maintain that kind of youthfulness, I mean, I'm quite lucky. I mean, I'll be vain. I look good for 46, and I'm quite lucky.
Yes, you do.
Not having much grey hair, only a little bit of my beard, and hardly any wrinkles and stuff like that. But people go to huge lengths, don't they, to keep young looking, to maintain their looks for as long as they possibly can. There's a lot of pressure to do that, even in employment and getting jobs and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure bosses, when they're interviewing people, judge people and what their skin's like and how their hair is and stuff like that. If you've got skin blemishes or a rash or a mole or whatever, they're going to be like, let's talk about that,
So let's talk about that. That's a great segue. Professionally, have you found yourselves, or have you seen it at work in the workplace, someone judged for their physical appearance, not hired for a job for not being qualified enough because there was actually a physical attribute that wasn't appealing to the job? Have any of you experienced that?
I've seen at my office, we call them Fembots, because they are perfectly groomed women, perfectly straight hair, perfect makeup, wear heels, stilettos preferably, tight-fitting blazers, perfectly tailored suits, and perky personalities and perfectly done nails. I mean, everything is perfect. Like, every little part of them is perfect. And that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work as a woman. And so it's kind of a joke around the office that we have a bunch of fembots, and they're the ones that get promotions, and they're the ones that actually become, like, some sort of management.
Amazing.
So
I've seen that in
self-fulfilling hierarchy, isn't it? Because then they get to the top, and everyone else has to do the same thing in order to get to the top again.
Yeah, there's people that I've seen that work really, really hard, but they're not as confident or as or seemed to be as confident, because I think a lot of these women, they have confidence, but it's an outer confidence, and sometimes it's not really inside. So they project confidence. Whereas women, I've seen that a girl I know, she puts a lot of effort into her appearance, but it's not exactly there, not exactly at that level, and she works really hard, really hard, really, really hard, and she gets nowhere. In fact, she gets ridiculed. And constantly, like, somebody actually told her, your hair isn't good enough, like, you're going to give presentations, like, you should do this, and you should talk like that. And, like, how can you, as management, like, get even away with that kind of stuff, It's disgusting.
I've seen that at work, and it's disturbing.
Obsession that people have to wear suits, and it drives me absolutely up the wall, and that's why I could never, ever, well, in fact, the corporate world is such a low vibration anyway, and it's destroying the planet. We'll leave us, that's another show. But I would not want to be part of that bloody world, because you've got to wear a suit, and you've got to wear a uniform, and be like every other person in the bloody office, And it just destroys people's personalities. It just takes away their individuality and anything like that. Yes. I'm all 11th house in Aries, so you can imagine I don't really have much patience for that sort of thing, And again, if you don't have the best suit or the sharpest suit or the sharpest fist, that you're obviously flawed as a human being and not going to perform in the office.
How do we stop this? How do we encourage society as a whole to stop looking on the outside and start seeing on the inside? Do you think there's a chance that we can do that?
It starts with yourself, just with anything. You're the beacon of light. If you go inside and, love yourself from the inside out.
I 100% agree with you, Kate. I think you're 100% right. All change begins within. And if you're good at accepting yourself, then you'll be better at accepting other people for just what they are. If you are kinder to yourself, you project that kindness onto yourself, you're going to naturally project that onto other people. So I think that is 100% where it starts. I think a lot of people, all of society is insecure, and that's where all this comes from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, of course I agree. You got to learn to love yourself, and that's one of the hardest things for some people to do, especially when they've come from very traumatic upbringings, as I did. It's quite a hard thing to maintain that self-love, but you've got to maintain it. That's the thing. You've got to keep it going. So you've got to have strategies. You need strategies in place, to remind yourself that you're a great person and stuff like that, because we slip, as human beings, and we can spiral down, but we've also got to have balance as well. So, it's like you need to watch yourself, so if you are eating unhealthily, you maybe want to question that for yourself. Why have I started eating these burgers from McDonald's, and why have I started sliding on my health? What's going on there? And you just have to keep a mindful check on yourself, but avoiding judging yourself.
So that brings us to this week. It's American Thanksgiving, and when you're faced with body shaming yourself, you go into this holiday going, oh my God, I'm going to gain 15 pounds or more, and how can I eat that food in front of you? And it becomes less about family and more about obsession about food, and that's not what it's about. So how can we go into this week acknowledging who we are and that it's okay to just enjoy a freaking day and let it be?
Well, you can find balance. You can, there's loads of food you can eat on Thanksgiving that is healthy and good for you. I've got my dinner cooking in the oven because it's evening time now. I've got sweet potatoes, roast potatoes and carrots roasting in the oven with some chicken. You'd have turkey, obviously, but you can make a really nice, healthy dinner.
So it is that balance of, enjoying what you love, the things that are only come around once a year, but the other things, you really need them smothered in gravy and butter and sugar and all that kind of stuff. No, you can make alternates. So when I did that, I found a shift, and I think that's another thing. I think we trick our minds into thinking that we'll be deprived. So we've got to have that. But if we keep in mind exactly what Jakeb was saying, the self-love of what we're putting into our bodies, then it becomes the feast this month. Let's bring it down to confession time. What was an instance in which, what you haven't shared, but really quickly, a body shaming moment you had about yourself and how you broke through it? So, Sophia, let's start with you.
I can easily remember when I started practicing being kind to myself. So it happened, I was having a conversation with a friend. We were in a slightly altered state of mind, but I was really listening. I was really, really listening. I was completely open to this whole discussion, and it came about that all of the things in our life comes down to you're not good enough. Everything that goes wrong for us comes down to you're not good enough. So I had to change the conversation in my own head. And I remember the next day I went to the gym. I was like 50 or 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, God, Sophia, why did you let this happen to you? Why did you let yourself get this heavy? How did you not notice you were this heavy? What's wrong with you? You look disgusting. All these people are probably staring at you thinking, why are you here? How can she possibly work out? I give her 2 weeks and then she'll be gone. All this, and I'm making up other people's assessments of me as well. It's not even just me being mean to myself. Now I've created a whole choir of meanness all around me. So what I did was I said, wait a second, I am being really, really mean to myself. Like, okay, what would my best friend say to me? What would somebody that loved me say to me? And they would say, Sophia, you have more right to be here, in fact, than any of these people, because you deserve to be healthy. You deserve to be a weight that you are comfortable with. You deserve to be happy, and you deserve to feel good about yourself. And so, yes, okay, you're overweight now, but you're here, you're acknowledging it, and you're taking care of it. And so just get in there and enjoy yourself and own what you are and just go and do it. And from that point on, things got much easier for me. But there's so much more to it, but I think that was my one first step in really any sort of success, that you can have any success in your life. 100% starts with being kind to yourself and letting yourself fail and then getting back up the next day or the next hour. But just being kind to yourself is the most important first step in any challenge in your life.
That was pretty powerful. Thanks, Sophia. Jakeb, how about you?
It was, again, it's like what Tony Robbins said. People say, well, it takes years to change. Well, it doesn't. It takes years to get to the point where you say enough. And I had started counselling last year for body dysmorphia because I would not go out if I didn't feel I was muscly enough. I wouldn't go out to a party or a club, or I'd cancel dates and stuff like that because I was like, oh, I'm not muscly enough, I can't go. Even though I'm like, what am I, 3 stone, 40 pounds heavier than I was, 20 years ago. And that's all muscle, weight, It wasn't good enough. And I started counselling, and then it was a few months ago, something in me snapped and said, enough. I've had enough. I've had enough. I've been ruled by this anxiety. I've had enough of being ruled by this little person in me that's telling me I'm not good enough. I've had enough of it, enough, and that's it. Once I'd really properly had enough of it, it shifted, so I was a lot more I'm not perfect, I was a lot more accepting of myself, not so caught up on the weight and muscle gain. So I think I lost 4 pounds 1 week, and before that would have been absolutely a disaster for me. I would have been depressed all weekend, but I wasn't. I was like, oh well, doesn't matter, we'll come back on again. I'll go to the gym and lift some weights, and it'll all be fine. And if it doesn't come back on, it's still fine, you know. And it was just a point that I was here in the kitchen, and it said, enough. I'm sick of it. You know, I'm sick of being ruled by this bloody anxiety and by this voice and this person in me. Enough. And I think you got to reach that point, and you might need support, either counselling or therapy or healing or whatever it is, to get to that point, so you can really just get to it and say, that's it, I've had enough now. But then obviously the work is then to maintain it afterwards, you know, to keep it going, you know. But you know, the shaming was always, I was never good enough. I couldn't go out to a party or a club or a bar because I wasn't muscly enough, and being no point, you know. Which ain't a nice way of being, man. It's not very enjoyable.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I had Jakeb come on the show for a reason, because we focus so much on women in society, and it's important to see that men struggle just as bad with their own, their own body shaming issues. So thank you for coming on and showing us that tonight.
My pleasure.
Kate, how about for you?
For me, it's all a growth pattern. I can look back to, you know, being in the womb with my mom, and I came out of a woman who shamed herself. So as a daughter, we often take on what our mothers have. So, you know, she was shaming herself and in the womb, and I'm sure I was breastfeeding while she was hating on her body. And as I grew, you know, my earliest memories of tap dancing when I was 4 or 5, I quit because the girls called me fat. A couple years later, my best friend's mom picked on me for not eating vegetables, and the underlying message was, you're fat, and that's not acceptable. You know, just throughout the years, and as I learned very early on, don't try anything, don't do anything, even though there's this huge seed inside of me that I always wanted to become something special and great, and I had so much to share and so much love to give the world, I shut that down, and I, you know, like most of you grew up in the age of Kate Moss became big, a big model, very thin when we were children. And so I had always told myself I wasn't worth anything. School shopping was always a disaster, a nightmare. Going to the mall was high anxiety, and I usually would end up crying and then getting angry because I didn't have anybody that could soothe me, because not only did my mom judge herself, she judged me, not meaning to. You know, she loved me and protected me, coddled me, but it never helped. So it never got me better. So it was really not until I started becoming independent and taking care of myself and grew into an adult and having to survive and make it in the real world that I realized that I just needed to love myself. I don't remember how that came in to my world or how I knew that. I just did, and I grasped onto it. And I'd say the best tool that I ever used or grasped onto was I was at a group, like a spiritual group thing, and this guy who led it asked the 20 people in the room to say one thing that stood out about each person. So you'd get this big piece of paper, like a big Post-it note, a huge pad, and he'd write one really positive thing that everybody would see. And I mean, I got loving like 3 times. That's what I remember. But it was all just nice, kind, nice things. And I put it on my wall when I got home. And I looked at that every day and then spoke those words to myself. And nothing has ever changed the vibration in me than as greatly as that did. And during that time, I was also wanting to find the love of my life for real, and was really without a relationship for 3 years, and where for so many years I told myself I wasn't worthy, nobody would love me because I was, you know, overweight, and didn't have a model's body or, you know, even a thin body. I stopped telling myself that, and I started loving myself. And it was not long after that, a year or two, you know, of good meditative, loving time, self-love, that I met the man who I've been with for over 6 years, and he loves and adores me just the way I am. I mean, I was much heavier when we met than I am now, and he's just always been supportive and loving, and never has ever judged me or made me feel less than. That's all on me, and he's given me the space to work through that and love me through it.
That's amazing. Thank you guys so much for coming on tonight. Really quickly, what final message do you have for our viewers?
Love yourself. Just practice. Keep practicing that. We've said it over and over, but that is the key.
Yeah.
That's really the key.
Jakeb, how about you?
I would say love yourself, and this is a bit, stop sugar. Sugar's a really bad thing. I'm so glad that I'm off sugar. I don't want anything that's sweet. It doesn't appeal to me. But sugar's addictive, you see, so this is part of the problem. You eat foods that are addictive, and it can be addictive in large quantities, and it's not good for your health. And obviously you get addicted to it, don't you? So that, again, causes symptoms and stuff. But it's to love yourself, find balance, and eat what you enjoy, and maintain it. Maintain strategies that keep you loving yourself. Don't let your guard down. You've got to keep at it all the time.
Perfect. Thank you. Sophia?
I didn't get to talk about the Thanksgiving thing before. So I want to bring up that I have a very different opinion from everybody else. For me, I believe health is very important first and foremost, but if food is something that genuinely brings happiness into your life, and for a lot of us it does, and as somebody that enjoys food a lot, I'm here to tell you, if you want to go crazy on the holiday, you are certainly allowed to go crazy and enjoy and indulge. Plan ahead how much you would like to indulge. Decide what, you're going to spend your allowance on, so to speak, of calories. For me, it's stuffing. I love stuffing. I will eat all the stuffing.
Me too.
So I eat turkey, I'll have like a little bit of gravy on it, but I'll start with the salad. I'll start with the vegetable. I'll try and fill myself up as much as I can on the vegetable, and then I'll move on to the stuff that I really, really like, and I'll let myself indulge on that. But it's also a plan. It's a strategy. I go, to start my day, because Thanksgiving can be stressful, in the morning, I actually like to go for a hike. I go for a nice 2-3 mile hike. I center myself. I'm in nature. I'm doing something for my body and something for my mind and my soul. So I really like to think about how you start your day, too. And exercise can be a part of that day. And if you felt like you ate too much for dinner, to take a little bit of the pressure off of yourself, go for a nice walk. Go for a nice walk after you have your dinner. And if you have sugar, go ahead and have sugar. Be mindful of how much that you do consume, because you will kind of hate yourself in the morning if you have a stomachache the whole next day.
Or a headache.
But overall, 100% the whole love yourself thing, it's easy to tell people to love yourself. It's how to start loving yourself. And I did a blog post on this. I called it my one simple tip to weight loss. And what I like to tell people, I gave them homework, is that monitor your thoughts for a week. Every day, think about what you're saying to yourself and monitor those thoughts. And every time you're having a negative thought to yourself, try and turn it around on yourself. And try to think, what will my best friend say to me? What will my mother say to me? Somebody that's a positive influence, what would they say to me? And that's how you gradually fake it till you make it. It's not, you don't just love yourself right away. It takes a lot of practice.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. This was an amazing conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground, and I just want to thank you for coming on tonight. It was a pleasure. So thank you all for watching tonight. I'm Jennifer Watson. If you want to learn more about me, I'm at www.jennifer-watson.me. If you want to learn more about our fabulous guests, I will post all their website links and their information in the video below, so please go check them out. They're all beautiful souls. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Join me next week as I interview Lily Sorum. She is a talented numerologist from Slovenia. And what do numbers have to do with your life? Well, tune in next week to find out. Thanks for watching. Namaste, and embrace your power.